gentlemen, please welcome.
And we are live once again every Tuesday night at 8. You know you can catch another exciting edition of the MCW Cast, and I'm back in the studio.
Glad to have you back, Larry.
Yeah, we missed you last week, buddy.
Yeah, well, I missed being here, and what an insightful interview that was with the podfather, of the game today, Mr. Conrad.
Yeah, talk about a guy that's figured out this whole wrestling podcasting thing, huh? It's freaking amazing. Not just one, but like 7 ridiculously successful wrestling podcasts. Like everything he pretty much touches. He's even taken over. That's what I found interesting. Like guys like Jim Ross, who had a podcast, went to him and been like, "Hey, like, let's revamp this thing and do it your way." So he's he's taken a lot of podcasts that were already successful and made them even more successful.
Yep.
And I heard he had some great feedback about being a guest on our podcast, just the way that we kind of had everything lined up, easy peasy and lemon squeezy. So
yeah, he's a great guy. It was cool of him to come in studio while he was in town and kind of knock that out and do that for us.
Indeed. Thank you, Conrad, for joining us here on the MCW Cast. Hopefully we can bring you back and I can be in the studio for that because I felt I was missing out, but other obligations. But here we are, episode 23. Can you believe it?
Yeah, we're almost like 6 months in, just about, right? We're right around. Yeah, we're about that. We're about half a year in.
Yep.
Yeah, and recently announced from old Governor Uncle Larry, state of emergency lifted, mask mandate gone. We're getting back to business, baby.
Yeah. And hopefully we can announce something really soon because it seems like the only thing that's not allowed as of now in the state of Maryland is professional wrestling.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
We can go put 50,000 people in the Orioles Stadium.
Yeah.
We can fill up M&T Stadium.
Probably not Orioles. Probably
maybe
not
for the right
Camden
game.
Yards.
For the right, maybe for the right game. But
no offense, Orioles, but you haven't done really good.
We still can't do pro wrestling.
Well, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel it shining on my face.
But in the meantime, if you can't get your live wrestling fix, you can check us out. Of course, listen to the podcast, all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Google, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and CastBox. But not only that, we have other content out there. Our YouTube channel is full of things, including our Flashback Friday. This week, we've got Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley from the Shamrock Cup 2006. So taking you back to that. And we've also got our Thursday night show, the Road
Back.
And the first episode of Breakthrough. Props to Steve and John, who are doing all the work on the editing. But, man, we're really putting out a lot of content. If you step back and look for an independent promotion.
Not running shows.
Not running shows. It's been 15 months since we've had a live event. And we're putting out a decent amount of content with the MCW Cast. If you go to I was updating stuff on the YouTube page the other day and was kind of looking at it. Was like, man, I don't think there's many other indie promotions, especially indie promotions that aren't running, that are putting out this amount of content weekly between our Flashback Friday matches, the Thursday night road backs, MCW Cast, of course, and now we got a couple episodes in the can of Breakthrough. We
debuted that.
Recently. Episode 1 and episode 2 will be coming up. What's the date? Do we know the date?
The 24th. June 24th.
June 24th will be episode number 2 of Breakthrough. So, we're getting there. We're ready, but we're putting out a really good amount of content.
If you missed the first episode and you want to check out the recently retired Leo Rush, Breakthrough's your place.
Yeah, there's a couple more matches already in the can taped of his coming up that are pretty exciting, and they've been doing good viewership on Facebook and YouTube. You can go to either platform and watch it. Just go to search MCW Pro. In case you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, go to Facebook or YouTube and search MCW Pro Wrestling and watch episode Breakthrough. It's about 90 minutes. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I enjoyed being a part of it. And we want to hear back from you, fans. So when you do go search it out, if you didn't watch it premiere, leave some comments. Go ahead and share that episode. Let us know what you think. I'm not the only one who looks at it, but even someone like a Leo Rush or, Joe Keys is looking at those comments. So maybe you could interact with your favorite MCW star. All it takes is just to join on the conversation and leave comments on the video. We see those. So thank you for sticking with us as we created all this content. And with that said, we got some ice cold brew here that we're sipping on.
It's getting a little
Nice
warm in the
segue.
studio.
Yeah,
Yep. Cold brew tonight.
And we got an ice cold episode of the MCW Cast with some ice cold guests. I'm talking about two of the OGs of the MCW Pro Locker Room, Dope Sydeswype, the Ghetto Mafia in the house.
The original version of the Ghetto Mafia, too.
That's right, because there have been different iterations of the stable. But I'm so excited to bring our guest out to share some stories with them. For you to join us, we're going to take a brief pause for a little internet station identification, but we'll be right back with episode 23 of the MCW Cast.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And we are back here live on the MCW Cast, and joining us in the studio from the corner of Poplar Grove and Edmondson Avenue, the original Ghetto Mafia, Dope and Sydeswype. Thank you for joining us on the MCW Cast.
Oh, wow. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
we
well,
finally
thank you.
made it.
Yeah. Talk about some OGs, man. We've had a lot in the past couple weeks.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Dope is the second student that ever joined the original Bone Break.
Technically, we always give RJ but it was really a tie. Like, they both actually signed up on the same day. Yeah, it was a day apart. It was a day apart.
I was day first.
Oh, okay.
Day one.
He can have it. No, he can have it.
All right.
Was he really the? Were you?
He was a second.
He was a second, really?
Student, yeah.
He just ruined our gimmick. Just
Well, he can have
totally
it.
exposed us.
That's amazing to think that, with a professional wrestling school opening up in, 98?
97.
97, your first student was an African-American, fan, I guess, at the time.
Oh, yeah. Super fan.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show Baltimore is a real wrestling town.
It is.
And not just a wrestling town, but a large population of
Always
the
has
money
been.
that's been generated has been black dollars. My mom taking me to the shows, and
I think that's probably one of the reasons they gave us Ron Simmons.
absolutely.
Don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I
As
agree
the
with that
first black
totally.
world champion.
Yep.
Don't you think that's one of the reasons they
Yeah.
gave us to Baltimore?
And boy, you can look at that footage. I was there. I was
I
all the
was
way
there
up
too.
top.
I was there
I was
too.
all the way up top. But Baltimore exploded.
I was there with black friends that were wrestling
Mm-hmm.
fans. It was a big
It was a big
moment
deal.
and
Yeah.
unsuspecting.
Yeah.
Unsuspecting.
Huge.
It was awesome. It was a great moment. Just
Yeah.
in general, really unbelievably emotional.
And a moment for Baltimore. A lot of
Yeah.
things happened in the history of wrestling.
Remember the scene that's the guy with the North Carolina Tar Heel shirt, the black guy in the front row bawling? Like
Oh,
I
yeah,
felt like that
yeah,
was like an
yeah.
iconic moment with that. Like that moment always went hand in hand. They went to him and he was like bawling.
And you know what?
He was right in the front row.
Way more authentic than maybe when Kofi
Oh,
won.
completely
You know what I mean?
authentic, yeah.
Because there were no cameras, there were no smartphones
Right.
back then.
Yeah.
So
Just
this
completely
was real
authentic, real
emotion.
moment, yeah.
Well,
so-
let me ask y'all, since y'all was there and seen the whole show, did you expect it?
No.
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so.
Yeah. You know what,
Because
now-
I was a dumb wrestling fan. I never, up until the days of training, I was training and I didn't know I was training in wrestling. I didn't know anything about Dave Meltzer, the sheets, the behind the scenes stuff. I knew nothing except what was on TV and in the wrestling magazines. Right. So I was a completely dumb wrestling fan or just a mark.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't know Jake Roberts. I didn't even know he was gone from WWE when he came out and jumped Sting and set that whole thing up. No, I remember I think hearing years later like that had been in the sheets that Jake was going to be a surprise, but I didn't know.
Yeah,
it was all.
And for me, it was such a surprise because, and I'm sure, Sideswype and Too Dope, you can relate. Growing up in the early 80s and the 90s, black guys didn't win on TV. As talented as Coco was, he was usually losing to the big boss man, or Virgil was taking the fall to Shawn Michaels. So for an African American who actually looked like he could take Vader to take Vader in Baltimore, it was like a magical moment.
Well, we can't ignore the fact that Bill Watts was the booker at the time, so you would expect that. When you hear and because I don't even know if I remembered or knew. Well, I knew
Watts was a big fan of.
Yeah, he was
Ron
a fan
Simmons,
of
right?
Ron Simmons
because Bill Watts was a big fan of athletes in general. You hear a lot of whispers in the wrestling business, like Bill Watts was a racist. But like people that I talked to in wrestling, guys like Jim Ross and all like that just wasn't true.
No, he was an African American fan. A fan of the African American athlete.
Yeah, and he loved athletes in general.
Yeah,
so and that's what Ron Simmons was from Florida State. Yeah,
and it was bittersweet because I was the biggest freaking Sting mark. So the fact that Sting got taken out, I went there expecting to see Sting regain the title. So as the night unfolded, it went from disappointing to what turned out to be a really one of the more probably iconic moments in wrestling history that we were there for. Probably like top 10. You have to rank it.
Oh yeah,
in the history of wrestling.
It couldn't have been in a better
place.
venue.
Yeah.
Right. So just tying all that together, Too Dope, first student of Bone Breakers, African American, proud, loud, and got in there, and eventually went on to the heights of being Rage champion, tag team champion, and having a lush career here in Maryland Championship Wrestling. Let's talk about both of y'all's careers, starting from the beginning.
Well, I want to. How did Sideswype get in here?
Right.
When did you pop in? You were
right.
You were
I need the timeline
close.
in front of me.
I hear you.
So you were not too long after, right? He wasn't too long after we opened. When did you remember when you signed up?
No, I don't remember.
You were on the first show. You were on the first show.
He was
That
on
would
the
have been
first show.
July '98.
Right.
We were Bone Breakers was opened. Was that your very first show that you
Taps Arena?
Was that the first show you worked on? So we probably opened Bone Breakers about a year.
It was the Headbangers that he heard about that made him drive to Bone Breakers.
Really?
When you had the Headbangers down at the school.
Okay.
They were the tag champs, the WWF tag champs.
They did a signing at the school.
Yeah.
What happened, I went to the USA Arena before they closed, and I got the flyer for the training.
That was it. That was how we got the word out, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Firing works.
I heard that the Bone Breakers is going to be there for autograph sign. So grab a couple of buddies of mine. I'm like, oh, man, let's go down here, man.
Were they WWF tag champs at the time they did the signing
they
for
was.
us? I think they were.
They definitely were.
Yeah.
Shout out to Glenn and Chaz.
Rode up to Bone Breakers, got in there, autograph sign, signed a contract to train in. Then from then,
the rest is history.
Now, were you planning to sign up to train, or this was just
no, I was planning to sign a train.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you were probably within the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Because you probably had a couple months training and then you did the first show. From the time we opened Bone Breakers to the time we launched MCW was about a year. in between. So, yeah, I would say you were probably within the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Sideswype.
Of course, when me and RJ started, we was wrestling on the floor.
You were part of that. You were part of that.
So Dan tells this story all the time about how, day one, everything looked great with the rented ring.
You
day
remember
two,
that?
Yeah, oh yeah, I
you
remember
show
that.
up, and he talks a lot about RJ's expression. So what was your impression when you walked in on day two and now there's no ring?
I'm like, what the I'm like, they got us. But no, I knew they
Did
were
you think
legit
you got-
because I actually tried out, and when I tried out, it was at MEWF. So I knew Dan and Axel was legit. And
Yeah, we were just fake.
Yeah.
We honestly fake it till you make it. That's what we did. We were doing. We
was just wondering when we was going to actually see a ring.
Did
let
you
alone
believe?
get in one.
Did you believe any of the BS when we were saying like you guys need to pay your dues, or you were like, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Yeah, I tell you, I was kind of going with the flow, but I think RJ was way more mad.
Oh, he was pissed.
He tells
RJ
that
was
all the
pissed,
time.
man. He was not having it. RJ was.
yeah.
That's why I
just,
wanted to know how you felt
my
about it.
Well, I was, I was kind of going through a rough time in my life, so.
Oh, you were split up with your old lady at that time.
Yeah,
right? Your
man.
baby's mama.
Yeah, I didn't give a damn.
I remember
what
that, yeah.
happened at that.
Yeah.
We could have did anything.
Oh man, we've had so many of these talks over the last 25 years.
Good gracious of life. So I didn't really.
Any place was better than home. Got it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So
I was in Heartbreak Hotel,
RJ wasn't
so I
having
didn't
it.
care about
Huh?
that. I was in Heartbreak Hotel.
That's funny.
So wrestling was your escape, getting away from
It always has been though.
yeah,
hasn't it?
yeah. Well, interesting enough. When I first tried out, me and my daughter's mother was together. She went. It was me, her, my mother, and our kid. So when I went to try out, so she was trying to discourage me because she didn't want me to. She didn't want me to do it anyway. So, we ended up breaking up. And soon as around the time we broke up, Dan called. He had my number from the waiver that I signed. So next thing you know, I'm like, income tax came around. I had just enough to start school, so I went for it.
And there it was. Hasn't wrestling always been that though, man? I remember the toughest times I've been through in my life, the one place I could go would be on a show in a wrestling ring.
Oh,
everything just goes away.
Yeah.
No matter what you're going through in life. That's was always, I think for me, the one thing about being in the ring that you just couldn't explain to people, that no matter how bad life was, when you walked out that curtain and for that 15 minutes you were out there, everything just went away. Like it didn't matter. It was always that way.
The interesting thing with me too is wrestling attracts so many different people of all walks of life, and we just all became one family, just like that.
It is.
I mean,
it's
that
instantaneous.
Oh yeah, I'm like, God dang, and I'm like, wow, I never hung out with white guys before, and I'm like, man, white guys, you know how to party.
Yeah. That's.
Oh, you know how to party too.
Yeah, true that.
Do we need to talk about that
Well,
Christmas
you-
party?
you-
know the one.
Roast me. And I'm like,
You know that.
but yeah, Tara, I know you see me in
That
the
time
burn.
I saw way more of Two Dope than I ever thought I would. Yes,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
put it that way.
And I was talking trash earlier that night. I'm like, how did I end up here?
In a compromised position. Yes.
2 words: corporal punch.
Yes.
Corporal
Yes.
Corporal punch.
Seriously.
That was it.
Corporal punch.
Yep.
Dang.
Bring that back this year.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that like in this world that we live in now, right? Where like you seem, especially always around election time, things seem so divided, right? By sexual orientation, race,
Right.
like the world. Like I've always thought over the years, like that was the other thing that always was just great about wrestling. Like it wasn't that. Like I always felt like we were in this. Go back 20 years before all this like cultural stuff in the world. Like wrestling was this bubble that was just different races and sexual orientations, and none of it mattered.
Nope.
Like because we just had this one singular love and passion, and we were, you know what I mean?
Well,
there was never.
It didn't matter to the dominant culture, maybe, but it mattered to the other people.
Did it matter to you
It
guys?
mattered to every African American
No.
male athlete who wasn't getting a push. It mattered to every female being degraded. It mattered to literally everybody else except the dominant majority. But it's it still provided the entertainment value that had the ability to transport anyone, no matter who you were. But I wouldn't say that those internal struggles didn't exist, because they did. They just didn't apply to everybody, and they still don't. Correct?
How did you feel like when you came in, Larry?
Well, I mean, just like how Dope mentioned, you kind of instantaneously are embraced by this family. Mm-hmm. And what I can go back to is, when I would go to events. When I would go to events and I would be amongst the crowd, a lot of the times the person right next to me would have like tattoos, like sometimes Iron Cross tattoos and things like that, which probably would be a red flag to me. But it's losing ourselves in the wrestling that's going on that, by the end of it, we're hugged up on each other, screaming and jumping together. And never once are we thinking like, oh, I don't like black people, or, oh, this white person doesn't like me, because it's just that powerful of a draw that those things don't matter. So in some regard, I do agree with both of you.
Like from the fan side, absolutely. That's what I mean. It transcends all things: race, class, gender, all of that. The being a fan.
I'm talking about inside.
On the inside. I'm talking about on the inside.
Well, I mean, I happen to come into a very diverse,
it was
company.
already established.
Yeah, it was. Or I had Swipe, Derek, Quentin, Marcus. Like I had, and even students, Kashawn. So
yeah, we were always incredibly diverse.
Very.
Talk to the only black guy for a while first. Talk to the only black guy that was around for a while.
Yeah. What? When we first opened?
Yeah, I never. I wasn't worried about it. I felt comfortable. Very much so. You know what I mean? Felt welcome. You know what I mean?
And in that time, it was different in general. Not just, but the way we trained.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I prefer it that way.
Yeah,
because
unfortunately, you can't get away with that.
You earned the spot.
We'd all have charges pressed against us.
Yeah,
yeah, that rough stuff.
But see, I never thought of doing anything like that. You know what I mean?
What's that? Just you never thought of it as
Just thought of it. I want to get into wrestling. I'll do what the hell I had to do to get there. You know what I mean?
It's been interesting over the years to hear stories from people working, that have worked for different companies. It's been interesting over the past several years to hear some of them say these things, that they experienced, suppression, or they experienced discrimination behind the scenes, but then to hear somebody else that, say the exact opposite, that, well, maybe they didn't. So, I mean, any business, there's a hierarchy. Any business, you know what I mean?
And the wrestling business, like, I'd have to say, as a promoter of like 25 years, a lot of people look for reasons why they weren't getting pushed, and not to say that racism and things like that didn't have a part to do with it, but at the end of the day, it's just really about, whether the promoter thinks you can draw money. Sometimes there's friendships involved, it's so many other things, but I can't tell you how many times over the years I've heard dumb comments about why I didn't push somebody, and it would be something like so stupid. Like, no, that wasn't my vision. At the end of the day, like Tommy Dreamer says it best, doesn't matter how good you are, a lot of times it's just one person's vision. Even for a long time when I was the only guy booking, it was just my vision. My vision was never guided by whether you're black or white or gay or a woman. It was just, what I saw as at that time for 10 years or so while I was doing that, what I saw is what made sense or made was good stuff.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah.
See, and I always looked at it like everyone has a role to play. You know what I mean? Like, I had no problem being a thug. I mean, he's the legit too dope, but I was just playing too dope. You know what I mean? But I had no problem doing that. So that was fun and cool. Me personally, I think race and sex sells. So, you know what I mean? I always liked all of that stereotypical stuff. I found it humorous, but I can kind of understand where some people can get offended these days, but it never really bothered me. And like, say for instance, somebody like Orlando Jordan, he's supposed to be the heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? I maybe supposed to be the cruiserweight champion or the tag team. So I never really looked at, I kind of got that old school mentality when it comes to the wrestling business still a little bit.
And don't you think that wrestling is stereotypical? That's the whole thing when you get into this, like, you get into this culture we live in. It's like, well, this is stereotypical or that's stereotypical to black people. Well, what about stereotypical hillbilly out? It's like, like wrestling just is stereotypical.
Yeah.
Like some of the best gimmicks. Like, but it's like you make a complaint. Well, this is stereotypical to a black guy, or well, it's all stereotypical. The same as hillbilly Jim's a hillbilly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's.
I don't know. It's kind of an easy way out, and it just perpetuates microaggressions against different people, whether it's class or race or gender. So I feel like we're kind of, I don't know. If you know better, you do better kind of thing. So there's room for improvement maybe. Like, do we have to only use those tropes? I mean, can't we do better?
Well, I think it goes back to what Dope.
It does sell, yeah.
I
agree,
like what Dope said. It's not only
can't
does
we
it
do
sell,
better?
but I mean, if it works, it works. And if it's
Right.
funny, it's funny. Police Academy's never going to not be funny to me, even
Right,
though I look
right.
back at it and I'm like,
oh my God.
Wow, right.
I grew up
know?
watching like Archie Bunker and stuff with my grandparents. Like, believe me, I definitely watch.
Well,
I
I mean,
laughed
that's
at
kind of-
totally inappropriate things.
Right,
but what I'm
that's
saying is,
completely inappropriate. Right.
Yeah.
we can find ways to be entertaining too that don't necessarily perpetuate stereotypes too. But I get that it sells. I mean, how many
Archie
girl
Bunker
shows
and
did I do?
George
You know what I mean? Like I completely understand that certain things sell. I participated in them as well. Like I get it.
Like I tell you, some of my some of the funniest TV was Sexual Chocolate and China and the trans
Mae Young and all
Mae
that.
Young.
all that kind of stuff was funny.
Yeah.
Well, it was so unbelievable too. Like you knew it wasn't
was shock
real.
TV.
Like
It was shock TV.
it was just what are they gonna do? Where are they going with this? What are they gonna
yeah,
do
for
next?
the time that was really funny, but you go 10 years earlier and you have, Slick, who became Reverend Slick, eating the fried chicken in the KFC to introduce Jive Soul Bro, the song, and
Right.
his relationship with Akeem. So it's like, I guess as the society evolves, then we kind of all have a collective, together we can laugh at this and find it humorous, knowing that he's not really like that. This is just an act.
Yeah.
And that the evolution of that has kind of, in my opinion, made pro wrestling not as fun, not as entertaining on a larger scale. You've got to find that in kind of places like us.
Well,
Right.
like look at Glow and Welfare Queen, for example. That played off of the misconception of what the typical person on welfare looked like, and that was pushed out by the president at the time, and then that caught on, and then look at people still think that that's what people look like on welfare. People still think that to this day, 50 years past when it was first said. So there is a danger to playing into these tropes and these microaggressions to continue to do it, because then you don't break that cycle. And so, like I said, that's a perfect example.
Well, yeah, especially with stuff being sensationalized as it is these days, and I mean, it's off the hook. I mean, good gracious,
We have
it seemed like
and
it seemed like it seemed like we're more diverse now than we ever been.
Divided. Well, that's how the politicians win elections. Let's be honest here. It's 100% about politicians winning elections.
I don't know where I am these days no more. You know what I mean? I find myself just living in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's I mean, we can go into hours of conversations about how the politicians win elections by dividing us up in groups. That's why do you think all that stuff's always pushed heavy around election time?
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
These things are always there. It's just they get more or less attention during different times. So I guess
they definitely
we should
get
just
more
say that.
attention.
And I will, full disclaimer, like I do this for a living. Like I talk about DEI. I train Baltimore County police officers on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I teach this at a college, so I'm just giving full disclosure if it sounds like I'm talking about this stuff, because that's like what I've studied. That's what I've studied for years, and that's what I do. So it's important to know that these things have always been there, and we are changing. Society does change, and it's not that all of a sudden these things are in the news. Yeah, they are. Well, we also have nonstop instant news. available at our fingertips 24/7, and that wasn't a thing that we had before then either. You know, I mean, there's lots of different examples, you know, like just how fast we get information. So now it seems like, oh, this is all of a sudden this is everywhere, but like it's always been here. You know what I mean? Like these are so. Anyway.
Basically, because there's so much of a news cycle. That
exactly.
It's always
which is, I think, a great thing because we're having a conversation we wouldn't have had 5 years ago or 10 years ago or sure as hell not 20 years ago. We're having a conversation, so I think it's a great thing.
We should.
But you know what? We're going to have to stop our conversation for a second because we got to take a quick break real quick. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some more about your early days in MCW and some other things you did after.
Because I don't remember how you guys
Yeah, I want to hear this too because they were a team when I got to MCW, so I don't know how they started.
It happened sometime in Bone Breakers. We'll figure it out after this break.
All right, we'll be right back.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, and we're back. I wanted to touch on, because with a lot of these podcasts, I find myself being reminded of things I don't even remember. One of those being, how did we get you guys together? You were like the first day, and you were probably 6 months to a year afterwards. Did it just happen at training, just kind of like it normally does? Like,
it just happened like, okay, we got 3 black guys here, so let's put them together.
Is that how it was?
That's how it was, really.
Was it Sucker Punch? Right?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Right.
Sucker
I was
Punch.
going to mention him.
I forgot about
he was
Sucker
still
Punch.
around when I was there, when I came. Okay, but he left right after that, didn't he?
He didn't.
Yeah,
What
he
happened?
couldn't handle it.
He just.
He left because his wife left him, and he was brokenhearted.
Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and he lived in Virginia, and he just disappeared. He never even came back.
Wife said, "Give up wrestling, or I'm leaving you." He gave up wrestling. and she
Wow,
left him.
what a bitch.
Wow,
That's
she
how
still
it
left
usually
her.
works.
Wow.
Yeah, once they give you that heads up, it's kind of like a warning. that
They're
it's
just
happening.
looking for an
That's
excuse
fucking
at that point.
And to be fair, not just women, but probably
Because
with women in wrestling, guys in general. Once the relationship's threatened by that, like if you're that insecure to probably threaten your relationship or something like that, you're probably on your way out anyway and just looking for an excuse. But that's the truth with any
she
time.
probably like, God, damn, what I'm gonna come up with next?
Yeah, I know.
Quit wrestling.
Huh?
She was like, he quit wrestling.
Yeah, you
Look,
quit your job or I'm
gonna
leaving.
how am I get rid of him?
Like
now?
this guy. Yeah, I didn't think he was going to leave wrestling.
Right.
Yeah, he did, and he disappeared, never came back. So he was only around for a minute, but he was Sucker Punch was around for the 6-man that we did with Yokozuna that would have been like 6 months into MCW, right? So so he was around for a minute.
I mean, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they just did that Yoko documentary, and the footage, some of the primary footage from MCW is Yoko doing something to Sucker Punch. Him dropping a leg.
AJ Fritzoid, the Bruiser, and Yokozuna versus Two Dope, Sucker Punch, and Sideswipe at Glen Burnie, 1998, November 4th.
Yeah, so he was around for a minute, maybe 6 months, and then he disappeared, and it just went from the 6-man
to a
so we were kind of doing the 6-man years before. Like the 6-man's got popular again in the 2000s, but trios, I guess, is they're referred to. So that's right.
Well, I was supposed to be the singles guy, and they were going to be the team, Orville and Sucker Punch.
So I was the stereotypical promoter, just putting 3 black guys together.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And actually,
Is that what you're saying?
Sucker Punch
Go
didn't even.
back to the first.
And like I was saying, these things have existed.
but I mean, I bet you Axel had a hand in that too, because Axel was kind of like guiding a lot of.
Yeah,
people,
I don't
like,
even remember. Yeah, Axel did
I'm
guide.
sure
Axel
was
did
like,
guide a lot
you
of
got 3
creative.
black guys, put them together, you know.
Well, Sucker Punch
on
didn't
Axel.
really fit the bill.
That damn
but-
racist Axel Rotten. You know, like you probably, I don't remember, but Axel was having a lot of creative back at the time. But I didn't even remember. I didn't remember. But you guys quickly got over. You quickly got over and became like the one of the main focus of the team.
One of the main
one of the main
heels.
teams, and you worked the Hardy Boys before they got signed.
Got to beat Dharma Ray down.
Yeah. Do you remember when Tom Brady was dropping the N-bomb?
On the microphone?
On the microphone.
Vaguely. Was that in was that at Teamsters, right?
Yeah.
Dundalk, yeah.
Yeah. That was like 1998 or 99. That I was like,
That was before
That
me.
must have been
Yeah.
like, I came in 2000, so it must have been like,
even then I
remember
was
that.
like, what are you doing?
well, it probably went over pretty well in that locale. I mean,
It was like
Honestly.
shock, huh?
Yeah, I don't remember any boos.
Do you
Right.
remember? Do you remember when we went to Alabama
Of course.
and we said, "Hey, go out there," and it wasn't a black person in the crowd. You remember this?
I was there.
There wasn't
heard
a
about
black
it.
person in the crowd. It was backwoods. It was Beulah Battery Community Center, right in Beulah Battery, Alabama. So backwoods. Do you remember Jimmy's Live Chicken and Used Tires? Do you remember stopping at that?
No.
Going to that building in Alabama. There was a Jimmy's. That's what it was, like an old gas station. It was a
Okay.
Jimmy's Used Tires and Live Chickens.
well, that's a combination you didn't know you needed.
That's what they sold. I mean, this was before the days of like phones and, or I would have been all over my social media because
course.
we used to just go nuts. We had like the flip phones. We didn't even have camera
Right.
phones.
Derek set us up all with phones back in the day.
That's right. We
Yeah.
would have just crack up every. That's how we knew we were in backwoods, Alabama, when we got to Jimmy's Used Tires and Live Chickens.
Yeah, it's like, what am I going to
Wow.
buy today? Some used tires or some live chicken?
But you cut the promo about taking home one of the white girls.
Oh, yeah, I
up the
remember
street
that. I remember that.
And the crowd started chanting the N-word. 500 people started
Then I was
chanting.
scared.
And we were
sure.
Stevie Richards and all. We were like ready to. It was like the second match. We were ready to leave and get too dope to hell. We were all ready to rush the ring. True
Wow.
story.
Yeah.
We were all. Our mouths hit the floor. And like the whole locker room went silent.
Oh,
Wow.
They were chanting the N-word.
yeah. Yeah.
This is 1998 in Alabama, and because he did go on a scathing about like pointing out white girls. You're like, that's a good looking white girl. That's a good looking one of these white girls is going back with me
And it was
and be
quiet
on
in
my
there,
big
too.
black Johnson. Remember? That's what you know what I mean. You're going. One of these white girls is going to see a big black Johnson.
Now, how did that make you feel? Did that come all from off of the dome, or did someone tell you, like,
Oh,
go
we
out-
were totally feeding it to him. We were all laughing about it in the back. Collectively, all of us. Stevie Richards, all of us, but we were laughing. This is going to be great heat.
Not in Alabama.
Maybe a little too much heat.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they
God,
started chanting
I believe it.
the N-word like it was 1950.
I just knew somebody was gonna come over the railing.
Oh
I just
my
knew
they
somebody
did,
was
but
gonna
we
come
were
over
all-
the
we
Were you by
ready.
your car?
railing.
We were ready. We were like Stevie.
the
We were
hood
sending a
on?
guy out to get in the car. We were all ready.
I'm sure.
Like 10 of us to jump in the car and leave the show with him.
Well, I mean, it's
Wow.
Baton Rouge. Where is it?
And we changed the finish, right? You were supposed to win.
Who,
And
who
we
was
said-
I? Because I was. who
We
was I
said,
working?
no,
RJ
he's
or
got to do the
Stevie?
job. We sent the word to the ref, like he's got to lose. Because we were like, if he wins, it might be bad. So we changed the finish, right?
I didn't even want to go back up the aisle.
Yeah.
I'm sure
yeah.
you didn't, but
We
look at
changed
how
it.
you could do that to kind of, I don't want to say manipulate the crowd, but make sure that they go home
Give 'em
happy
something.
so
Right.
that they don't
Exactly.
get even more
Yeah.
riled up.
I think they wanted
Was it-
more than that, more than a loss.
Was
to
this
make 'em
against
happy.
Tony Sweat?
Was it? Maybe
Is that?
it may have been.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the opponent was
I
because
thought it was RJ or Stevie. That's because I know I worked them a few times down south.
because it was so shocking.
Yeah.
We were all. I remember the one moment like that had no idea what to do and was like, what the hell is happening? Because too, like that would have went over in Baltimore, a very culturally diverse, and it's blacks and whites.
Right.
It would have probably got the reaction of him
Right.
just saying the white. But in Beulah Battery, Alabama,
No way.
didn't get the right reaction.
Wow.
Didn't get the right. It got the total opposite reaction. You were in the ring. What were you thinking?
I was like, Oh my God! What did I do?
What did I just do?
Well, it kind of is reminiscent of, we just actually recently lost New Jack in the pro wrestling community, but that was one of the things in the old Smoky Mountain days, which would have been predating, MCW's trip down to Alabama, that New Jack and Mustafa used to do quite a bit to, under the behest of Jim Cornette.
And it was probably, to be honest, because I was always a fan. I always liked New Jack. And I was training in the early 90s. So this is post-Gangsta Smoky Mountain. To be honest, we were probably stealing the Gangsta stuff.
Yeah. I ripped them
You know what I
off
mean?
a
We were
lot.
probably on that promo, and the idea of it was probably,
yeah.
it wasn't like it just came to us like, hey, let's go out there and say some racist stuff in Alabama. To be fair, because that was a couple years after they were hot, and they were in ECW now at that time, we probably were stealing. We were probably ripping off the gangsta stuff.
Yeah, a lot of them.
It just by La Battery, Alabama wasn't ready.
I'm not even sure if they're ready now, to be honest. So.
Yeah, they definitely weren't ready then.
We were actually supposed to work them in Fort Meade. You was going to bring them
The gangster,
Yep.
The Gangsters versus the Ghetto Mafia.
Oh, my goodness. We wouldn't probably be sitting here today.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Probably one of the reasons that the crowd down in Bio La Battery, Alabama got so worked up is, if I remember correctly from when I first came, you guys really looked the part of a Ghetto Mafia. You know, the chains, you were really swole when I remember first coming around, and you were really looking kind of like this guy came off the corner of Poplar Grove and Edmondson Avenue.
Right.
So I bet you part of the thing that happened was that some of those good old boys were probably scared that, these guys probably will take all our white women.
We're not trusting these boys from Baltimore.
Right, exactly.
We've heard about you up there.
Indeed.
Yeah, they definitely were a little self-conscious. I think
I'm
that
sure.
that Dope was actually going to leave with some of their white daughters.
Well, here we always talk about the reality of pro wrestling, right? Sure, we joke about that right now, but if you remember, in that same part of the country, all Emmett Till had to do was whistle.
Yeah.
And look at what happened to him. You know,
So that runs deep.
Yeah, of the kind of fear of like, the conquering black man that's going to come in with this long, big spear and, stab our girls up,
Or big something else.
That's
what I think they were worried about in Alabama. Their wives or their daughters getting stabbed by something else.
And you know what they say, once you go black, you never go back.
Well, I've definitely heard some stories over my days about some of the times where y'all's nights was very fruitful in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
When y'all was in the back hills of West Virginia or wherever.
Or Jerry Springer show. Or
oh, yeah, I heard a few stories out there in Chicago,
Colorado.
too.
Huh?
Colorado.
Palo Alto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was that up there for?
That's for the W.
Yeah,
the hip hop thing y'all did. Y'all used to.
yeah.
Because we worked Schrader and Marty.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Was that for Mike Burns?
Yes.
Mike Burns, when he had his little thing, he had a good little thing going on.
Yeah, it was. We had fun doing that. Yeah.
So you guys went on a run, and you were around forever, in the first incarnation of MCW, and one of the most dominant teams. How many time tag champs were you guys?
I don't know the answer to that, but I was going to say, did you see yourselves as being a part of a tag team? Like when you guys signed up, did you say I'm going to be a wrestler? Like, did you see yourself as a part of a tag team? Either one of you?
Well, I don't. I see me doing the thug gimmick.
Okay.
But, Dan had a real good idea for me at first because we used to shoot wrestle all the damn time.
I remember. So hold on. This is going to get me out of being the racist promoter. Warren Armbar Harris.
Yes. I actually was supposed to be.
So there, Tara. It was Axel Rotten.
I'm
he
sure
was the
it was.
racist.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
That's right.
Because I was actually supposed to be like a Taz.
Warren Armbar Harris.
Yeah, do
Weren't
like
you
a
gonna-
Taz
we-
gimmick.
Like Taz.
Yeah.
That's right. Like
Yeah.
a shoot wrestler.
Wow,
Yeah.
and you're the perfect build for that, and
That's
also,
right.
yeah,
I was actually pretty good.
Because you were doing
I didn't
real
wrestle
good
in
with the
school,
shoe
but the
wrestling,
only
that's
one I
right.
couldn't beat
I
was
forgot,
RJ.
but it just remembered. I forgot. I just remembered.
Oh
Yeah.
wait, you said you couldn't beat RJ, or
No,
you
I couldn't beat him, and
Nobody could beat
no,
RJ. at
no,
that
but I
time.
beat everybody else but RJ, and
Yeah.
it got
That
you.
was while they were paying their dues,
Yeah.
waiting to earn the right to perform in a ring.
Because there was no ring.
because we didn't have the money. So
Well,
we
I mean,
just-
Right.
I mean, those are your first.
What
lessons.
about-
doing fireman carries on a blue mat.
Hey, what was worse though? Do you guys remember? Remember? God love him. Cue Ball Carmichael tells
yeah.
me he knows how to
Yeah.
build a wrestling ring.
Oh, the porch he built.
He built the deck.
Yes.
So this was that's one of the that's the other part of the story that I've always left out. Things were so tight with money when we were looking around for rings to buy, and Cue Ball Carmichael pitches to me, brother, I know how to build a ring, blah, blah, blah. She tells me everything to order. He comes up. He builds a freaking deck because it had no give. Am I lying?
Oh, hell no.
man.
The concrete floor was harder.
Oh, wow.
The,
I got a
the
concussion.
concrete
I
floor
got a
was
concussion the first
softer.
day.
Was softer.
in the ring he built?
Dude, it was bone rattling when you would bump in it, and
Ooh.
we'd have thick padding in
Oh
it,
my
but you would
God.
bump, and your body would just.
Was it solid
Collapse.
wood?
It was
Oh yeah.
There was
Like
no
Oh,
give.
wow.
It
Probably
wasn't
oak.
built like a wrestling ring where there's flex. We actually, when we then ordered a ring, because by then we had got a couple students. We ordered one from a guy, Ted. I can't think of his last name in Atlanta. And he brought up a ring, and then we had our wood ring, and he showed us how to make adjustments on it to give it flex.
Some give, yeah.
To make
Okay.
it. But then at
Well,
the
that
time,
that was after my concussion and after RJ's concussion, which was
Right.
the day
Which-
after my concussion.
which was everybody was getting concussed
Yeah.
in
Oh,
it. It was that.
I mean, it's part of paying
Wow.
your dues.
It was that. So God love Cue Ball Carmichael. Love him. Classic. But he built us a freaking deck that was harder than the floor.
Yeah.
All right.
You know,
Well, you
so.
went on though to become 4-time tag team champions at MCW. So you
Was
got
that
past
was that 4-time though? Was it
Four.
some with
No, it was
Dope and-
7.
right?
Well,
So
it's
was
seven,
four was
seven
six.
as
Well,
with
the-
Sideswipe as your
Swipe,
partner.
4 with
4 times.
Swipe.
Yeah,
four with
4
the
for
Warble.
you too.
Really?
Right.
4 times.
4 times. Yep.
Yeah, y'all were like one of the solid teams. We had a great tag team
They were
division.
one of the they were
you know,
one of the definitely the cornerstone team.
Early.
I was with TQM at the time,
Mm-hmm.
so we had Chad and Dino
Earl and
and
Rich.
and Cue Ball and Jimmy Cicero. So we were,
Yeah, it was a lot of teams.
yeah,
We
both of
could
them
always-
worked
we
you
always-
guys
you were a team
multiple
that,
times.
You're in that from a promoter standpoint. You were a team that you were believable. You were always over, whether you were face or heel.
Mm-hmm.
So like you were dependable. Like that's probably why you were 4-time tag champs, because we could always go back to you.
Yeah,
If something happened, we needed a team. One guy gets hurt, one guy's leaving, one guy's quitting. Like, and you guys were always there, so you're that dependable. And you have teams. You always have people that you could always go back. Like we can always go back to the Ghetto Mafia and put the tag belts
Right.
on them.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, for me, when I first came in, and I actually just looked this up, the first MCW match I ever saw in my life was an opener featuring the Ghetto Mafia versus the Backseat Boys.
Oh yeah.
And this was the
wow.
first time that I'd ever seen the Backseat Boys, the Philly, Trent Acid, R.I.P., and Johnny Cashmere. And to me, the Ghetto Mafia were like the gatekeepers because they were kind of, trying to get to tag team championship level.
Right.
They had to go through y'all first in a hot opener. And I'll never forget, that was like,
Plus
that was
we had to put them over too. So
well, yeah, that's just the way it is. But
I know.
I remember that kind of opened my eyes to like the style of wrestling from the indies because all I knew up until that point was WWE. So
But
Yeah,
you
they were
guys,
pretty good, too.
beat the Hardys.
Oh, yeah.
You pinned Jeff Hardy. Didn't you pin Jeff Hardy?
Yeah.
yeah, I did.
Oh, two
you
of them,
did.
yeah.
You did.
I think I hit him with the belt.
Me too,
he
with the
pinned
belt.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. But he knocked both you guys out.
He whacked us.
And that's kind of how we, like you guys as a team, like Orville, you were always a little more limited too with like what you did.
but when he did, when he got his part was all.
That's what's
always,
great about
yeah.
wrestling. That's what's great about wrestling.
You know what I'm saying, right?
It goes back to what Tudo said. I always use the analogy of like beef stew. Like you can't just have beef in the beef stew. You got to have potatoes and onions and tomato,
Exactly.
and that could be comedy wrestling, and gimmicks and funny stuff, but it all makes the show. And like that was Orville. Like all of your parts, you did it. You know what I mean? You did your parts. You nailed it. Like you guys just. Sometimes you put people together and you put them together and it doesn't work. Sometimes that was your longevity because it worked. Like you guys clicked as a team. Like from the point of not just having your matches and having good matches and always being able to depend on you as a promoter and put the belts on you if we needed to, but you got over.
Right.
Like whether it was a face or heel, you guys could go out there, you guys could go baby face or heel and you could get over. You always you accomplish what you needed to. From a promoter standpoint, when we send you out and you're a soldier, and like go accomplish this, it's first match. You know what I mean? Be a baby faces, get over, let the heels get up on you, get the win, get the pop to start the show off. Like you would do it. Like you did what we needed you to do as a general.
Make the crowd in Alabama hate you. You know all of that. Right? They did it well.
Go too far, almost cause a race riot.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, that's some interesting stuff, I tell you.
But eventually, real quick, didn't mean to cut you off. Eventually, Sideswype, you kind of, left for a little bit, I remember. Like, all these great memories that we're talking about, 4 tag team reigns together. Eventually, there was a split, and Dope, you started going on your own thing, and Sideswype, I think you originally were like, the heavy for Marcus Jordan? Didn't they kind of have you as a supermodel? Or
I remember that.
You were going through personal stuff.
Right.
He was having a lot of personal.
And we had to kind of write him out.
Yeah,
but,
he just needed time. His head wasn't in it, which happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
He just wasn't into training, wasn't into just personal stuff.
Right.
Change of address or something like that.
You're funny.
Went into
Tudo's going to tell it now. Tudo's going to tell it.
Moving into a much bigger house.
I forget what her name was.
But
I remember.
That kind of led into a new chapter of the Ghetto Mafia. And that involved another OG from MCW's past, Keenan Creed, who eventually became your tag team partner. We want to hear a little bit about that chapter and the story of the Ghetto Mafia, but we do need to take one more break. So stay with us, fans. We're going to be right back here with Sideswype and Tudo, the OG Ghetto Mafia.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
All right, we are back with the Ghetto Mafia, joined here with Larry and Dan. So when we left, we were talking about your reign as MCW Tag Team Champions. Yeah. Now, you didn't just stay in MCW. We talked about Sideswype. You took a little break. You got a new tag team partner, Keenan Creed. Mm-hmm. And then what happened next? The two of you went on beyond MCW.
Well, it was actually me and Sideswype.
Oh, it was?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So it was before the break.
Yeah.
All right. Got it.
We went to a group based in LA called UWA.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. That was that tryout. Did we go to New Jersey or something for the Monster Factory?
Yep.
That's right. The New
Urban
Jersey
Wrestling
Monster Factory. Yeah. That's right. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was the first version.
That was the
of
prequel to
the first of the
Yeah.
urban.
Yeah.
Right.
And was this the version that was on TV, or we're not there yet?
Yeah, that's the version.
It
that
did.
was on-
It made
yeah.
TV.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
made TV, right?
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. I
so-
got a couple VHS tapes of it in a
Yeah.
box somewhere. I swear to God. RJ taped them.
I'm glad he
Yep,
did.
he
I'm
did.
glad
I
he
have
did.
them.
Well, yeah, apparently, it was me and Orville and Marcus and Orlando. And we all did a trial in Jersey at the Master Factory. And so we got hired by them, and they had a B team and an A team, so we was a part of the A team. So they flew us out there and put us up in hotel. And each time we would go out there, we were out there for like a month or two at a time. Right. So it was like we had to practice every day.
That's right. I forgot you guys kind of lived out there. I
I hated it. But we had to practice every day. We was only off on Sundays, and we had to go to acting class.
Wow.
I remember.
Did you like it,
I forgot all
Sideswype?
about that.
I liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
That sounds
LA just
interesting.
wasn't my thing, but I got used to it after a while. 'Cause I was really homesick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we would do the acting class. We had some acting coach, and then after we get done with that, then we'd start training, and it was like 8 hours a day, rehearsing the matches over and over again, practicing promos over and over again. And that part I didn't mind. It's the acting had us doing Denny commercials and some scripts from some stupid TV show, and hey, it had nothing to do with who we were supposed to be.
Learn how to
Right.
cry
What
for
was
no
your character
reason.
like there?
Pretty much the same.
Pretty much same.
Yeah, we
Did they let
wrestled.
you keep Ghetto Mafia, or did they?
No, we had to.
soldiers.
We had to. Yeah, they
Street soldiers.
Street
they changed
soldiers.
because
That's
they wanted to own the rights.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So that was fun. So that was like a hip hop versus wrestling thing, and then they had a DJ, and they had a couple of rappers involved, and apparently
Black
they
Rob.
say Shaquille O'Neal was supposed to have been one of the investors, and they was trying to get like Will Smith, but they were trying to launch the show, and because the show was coming on UPN, and they was trying to get it on BET at the time.
Right, I remember
Yeah.
they were trying to. BET was the target.
Mhm. Yep. But shoot, checks was good, and then they start bouncing after a while.
And then much like everything, the
Yeah.
checks start bouncing.
Yeah.
So then you come back from that, and then how long was the UWF? How was that time frame? That was the one Steve Carroll.
Yeah. Well, I was actually out of wrestling by then when you had called me about that, and that was in 2011.
Man, time flies.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hadn't wrestled
Yep.
in years when you made that call, and but that was a fun trip.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And that version of the Ghetto Mafia that was in the UWF was you and Keenan Creed.
Mhm.
And to kind of go back and touch from earlier on the show, I guess, cultural appropriation issues, I guess this would be classified as. I remember Keenan did not want to do he didn't want to do the stereotypical ghetto.
No.
He
He
did
was
not want to do it.
No, he was totally
Remember that?
against
Yeah,
it.
I do.
Yeah, he was totally against it. And I
Because
took
he had been that wrestler, Keenan Creed, Shamrock Cup winning.
He was a cruiserweight. He wanted to do the
He didn't want to
flying
do that.
stuff.
He didn't want to
wanted-
do that stereotypical
Yeah.
Yep.
gimmick.
Well, and like I told him, I took real offense to it because number one, I'm not like that. So, and I also told him when you go through the curtains, you can hear a pin drop.
Which is true.
So
He
yeah,
just,
you know what I mean.
he lacked that. He lacked that personality. He was a great wrestler.
Yeah.
But he did lack that personality of being really
Right.
over.
Yeah.
He had good music. His entrance
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
was good.
But
Like,
but
he didn't have the
when he
charisma.
adapted that and when he
Yeah.
agreed to do it,
Mhm.
holy crap, you guys you had another
Yeah.
home run. You
Yeah.
reinvented while you had stepped out.
Yeah.
You reinvented
And it was good for
refreshed the
him,
Ghetto
and it was
Mafia,
good
and it
for
was
me.
good.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
like good at it
Yep.
because I remember it being an issue, and I remember having the conversation with him about it. So I remember not being able to believe 2 months later when you guys went out and did it, and he just was all in on it. How good it was, and how good he was, and how just you guys flowed as a team. It just refreshed the team, and
Yep.
it was like a brand new team But it just it was a home run.
I didn't expect him to be as good as he was with it.
Yeah,
but
it was a home run.
Yep.
Like once he jumped into it, it was. And then he was into it.
Yeah.
Because then you guys were like off and running. You were having
matter of fact, when I started wrestling, he was still wrestling with the gimmick. Yeah. He was actually pretty good at it. But I mean, you know, I'm like, it's a business. It's a work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you guys all hit it, and then Sideswype would slide in from time to time.
Yeah.
You know, over the next couple.
I tell you, I do like that 3-man thing, along with Keenan and Swipe, and
I was always a fan of it. So when the Wyatt family and the Shield and all them started bringing it back, I always liked the trios.
Yeah,
6-man.
Yeah,
so
you can play
guys,
off of it so much. So much you can do with it. You can switch the teams
the
up.
New Day,
Right.
you got to give them props for really being one of the big teams that kind of brought it back into focus.
Yeah, that's some fun stuff, and it can be very entertaining as far as promos and stuff.
Yeah. So that UWF was the same. It was basically the same concept.
Yeah, what was it? Urban Wrestling
Yeah, it was
Federation
Urban
or
Wrestling. I
something?
think it was kind of like
The other
just
was Urban Wrestling
a
Alliance.
polished version of what y'all had been involved with out there in L.A. And who knows? I've been hearing a lot of talks about the UWF resurfacing. I know that they've repurposed those shows 2 times over now. They've done the shows again with different names.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah, so you can catch it on a lot of the streaming services.
It may have been before. It may have been something that before social media. It may have been before its time.
I think
now
so.
There's so many different types of content.
So.
And I think that's one of the reasons when you get right down to it, where wrestling doesn't have as many eyes on it as it used to. It's just so many types. So many different things of content. You know, you can flip on Amazon Prime and Netflix, and it's just so many different types of content. You might be able to find that niche.
I think so, because it's like Lucha Underground before Lucha Underground. You know what I mean? Where it's all sorts of
a hip hop version.
Yeah, stuff going on outside of the ring. I liked it. I liked it. I enjoyed doing that.
It definitely is one of the top 5 moments in my 19-year career to date, was being able to announce you and Quentin and Ruckus and people from Maryland in the Hammerstein Ballroom. I actually lost my job with Dragon Gate USA to take that opportunity, not because I really believed in the UWF as much as it was going to be a lot of MCW guys involved in it and our opportunity to really shine in that grand arena. Too bad there was only 33 people there for that taping that we did.
That was
They were calling.
They didn't want to do anything. That was the one thing where I was offering them so many suggestions, 2 and 3 days out to just go. I didn't understand that. I was like, well, all that matters is the TV.
Yeah.
Let's go give away a couple thousand tickets on the street. It's a different. Let's just give 10,000 tickets. Because we were there 3-4 days ahead of time.
Yeah,
and they just did nothing. It was like 30 people.
Wow.
Yeah, Steve Carroll didn't care about a crowd. He just cared about the content.
And I tried to. That was the one thing I tried to like. You guys got me as a wrestling promoter. It's the one thing that I argued with them on that I just didn't understand. Okay, you don't care about the crowd, but the guys in the ring are going to feel the crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
The guys in the ring guys and girls in the ring aren't going to feel it if we don't have anybody there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was definitely a COVID era show.
They socially distanced without knowing to do it.
It was a big Hammerstein Ballroom, 30 people. It was like a pandemic show.
Yeah, it started off with about 30 people, and then they actually took you up on your offer, and they did go right outside on the street and start just saying, "Hey,
while
do you guys
the
want
show's starting?"
But
I was 2 or 3 days out. I was like, "Let's take," because remember we were
Which
gonna.
was smart. That was
I said, "We're a bunch of the guys while they're sitting there not filming. Just print me," because they were using Ticketmaster. I said, "Just print me 10,000 comps and let me just go out and give them out a couple days ahead of time."
That's what we used to do in MCW. You know,
It would have it really would have filled that joint up.
Yeah. Well, then after that, they went on to do another show at a club, a nightclub.
Oh yeah.
And that actually worked with only 30 people being there because it wasn't the grand, ballroom of the Manhattan
It was more
Center.
grittier then.
Yeah.
The most memorable moment of those couple days, though, was getting lunch in that deli, and I'm standing there paying for my food, and I this voice, and I'm looking up, and Daryl Strawberry standing in front of me buying a sandwich.
Oh, that's right.
Remember
Yeah.
that was like marked out. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, New York is real easy to just cross paths with anybody.
Yeah, everybody else was all calm about it. And I'm like, look, around Daryl Strawberry.
Yeah.
Everybody else was all calm because I said something to you and you were like, yeah, so what? Daryl Strawberry.
Yeah, I probably made some inappropriate joke about crack cocaine
I
or
think you
something.
did. I think you did. Like, see if he's holding or something like that. Yeah, I think you did. I got a picture with him.
Yeah, we did too. It was me, Keenan, and Napalm, and
That's right, because Napalm was even up
Napalm
there.
was
You
just
brought
coming around
Napalm
then.
up
Trying to
there.
get him a spot.
yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, all those. And Derek was there. D. Edwards was
Yep.
the ref.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was what Dragon Gate USA at the time was a big kind of elevation in my career. But, at the end of the day, I just wanted to be with the home teams, with
Hey,
the
that
home
was a good
boys.
time. It
Yeah,
was
we
a-
did.
yeah,
We
it was
had
a
a
good
great time, and the checks were great for that, too.
Yeah.
I remember at the time.
Yeah, they were. So here we are now. What are you guys up to?
Living.
Same thing.
Father Time catching up with all of us.
Oh my
man.
goodness! Hell to the
Yeah,
yeah.
it is.
It's hard to believe the stuff we're talking about was 97 was 24.
Man, there was some good
25
times
years ago.
though.
Yeah,
Gracious.
Yeah.
Do you think you still have any gas in the tank? Would y'all want to go one last time?
If I committed to get in the ring, I think I probably could get carried one time.
About 3 minutes.
Something quick.
Yeah, something quick.
Well, wait, didn't you guys do the Bruiser Strong Rumble
Yes, we
2
did.
years ago? Yeah.
how
All
much was
right,
your
that
body
was 2 years
hurting?
ago.
I was more nervous than anything. I
Like, were the people going to remember you or pop?
That-
And they did. They
Yeah.
popped as soon as your music
yeah,
hit. They
yeah,
totally
yeah,
did.
It was pretty cool. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that too. That
Yeah.
We
they
have a
did.
lot of long-term fans.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Because you think, you got 400 or 500 fans, which doesn't seem like it's many. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think, but it's so many of them are so, like, go all the way back. There's a lot
Yeah.
of, like, Greg Papalucases and
Oh
guys like
yeah,
that
yeah.
that
And
go
you
all-
know-
real cool guy.
What's crazy to me is that those fans, the Greg Papalucases, if we ever had him on the cast, he'd be able to tell you every title change, like
yeah.
how
He
you
knows
guys
stuff.
came
That's
together.
that
Yeah,
might
he
be a
know
good
his
idea.
stuff.
He would, we might, John over here, though, might not be happy about. They might start dueling.
Can they
Oh,
just
yeah?
Can they just play MCW trivia?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
might start dueling over.
We'll do it like
who can
Jeopardy
get
or
the answer
something.
first.
See who wins.
Yeah.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is the same way that you have like the WWE fans that can go all the way back in the record books and the history books and tell you all that stuff. We've got a loyal fan base as well, the faithful. I like to call
Oh,
them the
yeah.
MCW
Oh, yeah.
faithful. That
And
can
Greg
like, just-
Papalucas is definitely one of those guys.
That's right. Yeah, Greg, Charles Donahue,
Daryl.
the Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Several of them are coffee club members, and their support has helped us here.
Get this cold brew. Yeah.
Now we're switching to cold brew. I'm still drinking
Plus, there's
my
some
hot
good
coffee in the
good
morning.
conversations too having with them.
Yeah.
Running,
Oh, yeah.
I love
Yeah,
running
we
into those
appreciate the
guys.
support. And
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always good running into those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So life after wrestling. It's been good to you.
You still follow, you still kind of pop up. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
me
yeah,
and
man.
Two Dope on a personal level talk pretty regularly.
Yeah, yeah. We
just
we
about
shoot,
the ongoing craziness
yeah we shoot
of
the
life.
stuff all the time.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, probably conversations we can't have here.
Oh, for
But,
sure.
But,
Very, very crazy conversations.
But,
about
I mean,
our exes.
Well, that's what happens with family. You can have those crazy conversations.
Yes.
Just like
Right.
Dope
Right.
said, we instantaneously become kind of this bond,
Uh huh.
that is just unbreakable. And then the scary thing is when there is a break in the bond, then you really kind of are like, well, what's going on with this guy? Because, if they've kind of left the wrestling family, then you want to check on them more. You don't want to forget
Yeah.
about them totally just because they're not a part of our extended family.
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Right. And the thing is, man, you can't escape it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just
Right.
you just can't. You just can't.
Well, it sucks you back in for one thing or another, whether it's like a show to come back and do a show, or it's something like RJ's passing, someone that was
Exactly.
like a core that was, that kind of like brought everybody back.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, like RJ passing kind of just sucked so many people back,
Yep.
even if momentarily.
Yep.
for something, just because you create those bonds, and those are bonds that
they're unbreakable.
Yeah. They last forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go back to the days. Remember the days where we'd start out like in Bone Breakers, and we'd train, and then we'd all jump in my mom's minivan and drive around and put posters up.
Oh yeah.
You know, put posters up, and Jack Adonis.
Yeah, that was a
like
cool
that would be
dude.
with us.
He was a character.
Do you remember picking up the drunk guy? Were you with us that night?
Mm-hmm.
We picked up the drunk guy and made him put posters out.
Oh,
No, I wasn't there. I definitely wasn't there.
He was probably like 60.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were driving around. RJ, Axel, Shamrock, Earl the Pearl. I thought you were there. But, yeah, we picked this guy up in Glenburn, and then we would get him out. We would make him get out with a staple gun, like, because he had to go to Annapolis.
Oh.
He was hitchhiking outside a bar. And we were like, we'll take you home, but you got to put some posters out.
Oh, wow.
So, But when he got out, there were some posters, and we took off and left him a couple times, and then would, like, circle back, and we're like, we're just kidding. Come on, get in. we eventually took him home. I thought you were there that night.
Oh, wow.
I thought you were there.
I
He made
remember
it home.
flyering.
Huh?
So I had only lived in Baltimore a couple of years when I signed up at Bone Breakers, and I remember going on those flyering nights and stuff, and I was like, where are they taking me? Like, I've never been to any of these places. Like, 'cause I didn't know. I had to have explained to me, like, how the Beltway worked. Like, I didn't understand. Like, because I'm not from here, you know? So
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
you were
didn't
from
know.
out west
So
of
all
there.
I know is I caught on really quickly, like, when we would assign, like, who was going where to flyer, I always would pick that shopping center where David's Bridal was, because it was, like, well lit. Because some of the places I was going, I was like, all right, I'm like in alleys, like we're parking in like alleyways, and we're like flyering. Yeah. So for the non-Baltimore person, I was just completely like, I didn't, you know, this is before GPS. Like I got MapQuest in my car, you know, like I printed up where I was going, and I'm like, no one's ever going to find me. Like, I'm not that I thought something bad was going to happen. I legit didn't know where I was. And I had an SUV. So everybody like piled into the back of my car because I could fit 7 people. And I'm like, I don't know where I am. Like, and I'd never seen it. But I know I always would volunteer. I'll take that shopping center. Because I knew it. I could get, it was on and off the Beltway. And I knew I could get there.
Was that the SUV that you hit the light post in the middle of the empty parking lot?
The light, it was like it was.
I remember that.
In my
Yeah, we just
defense.
put it up.
Completely empty parking lot.
Yeah.
And that
Tara
was
hit
when
the
Mickey
light
James
post.
had those spikes on her gear, and they were like the football pads with like the spikes on them, right? And they come flying out of the back. Yeah. All right. So maybe I got distracted. That was also the same car that we were in Philly, and I threw my soda out, but the window was still rolled up.
Yeah.
I think you were in the car for that
I
too.
did that before.
Yeah. Yeah, we all got doused with a little bit of that soda.
I'm not the best in the morning. I've never been a morning person. So. But yeah, those were fun times. But yeah, we form these bonds, you know, that just transcends time and, you know, events and everything, and we can all pull back together and, you know, reunite and stuff.
It's just nonstop laughter. Too.
Yep. Yeah.
Are either of you guys like actively watching any wrestling that's going on?
Oh yeah, I keep.
What do you watch?
I watch. Sometimes I catch Ring of Honor and AEW and NXT.
Yeah, I think AEW. It seems I seem to like watching that a little more than WWE.
Really?
Nowadays, yeah, I kind of like it a little bit more. Maybe it's so much. I feel like WWE's putting out so much content. I think it's like hard to follow because it's so much content.
It is.
in
I
WWE.
do like NXT though.
That's true.
Yeah, I
That is
do
good.
like that. So yeah, I'm keeping up with it.
Do we have any fan questions for them?
We do not, but we want to take a break and talk about what is
What's
going
going
on
on?
in wrestling.
Yeah, we're gonna do our
Will you guys
roundup.
stick around for that?
Oh, yeah,
we're
so
gonna
it's
do
a
our
great
roundup.
segue.
Yeah,
Gun on that,
absolutely.
after we
So let's
take
do that.
this last break.
All right.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, and we are back. Episode 23 on the 23rd. And we left off with, if you catch up on the goings-on of the professional wrestling universe to this day, and you were saying you catch up on a little Ring of Honor. I think that's really significant because I've mentioned this on the cast before, but Ring of Honor is the last wrestling that's just on TV. Mm-hmm. And that's what we all grew up with, being able to tune on regular TV. And what I mean by that is not have cable, not have the internet, just have over-the-air reception. And I guess to really hammer it forth, if you don't have enough money to be able to afford the WWE Network or Peacock or whatever, you can at least watch some wrestling and Ring of Honor. So, Dope, you said you watched some Ring of Honor. Anybody impress you in particular that you've been seeing on the broadcast?
Well, I'm still a Jay Lethal fan. I still like him. Of course, the Briscoes.
What about our guys?
Joe Keys.
Ken Dixon getting a little shine on there.
And Dante Caballero as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Has
talk
Dante
about
been getting TV time?
I have seen him. I've seen him featured a few times on the ROH. I watch ROH. It comes on like kind of late at night, so it's like the last thing I have on my TV before I close my eyes.
It comes on pretty often too.
Yeah, they got to work into the rotation.
And they fill it. Like Sinclair is pretty smart about how they handle it. If they need extra time because they own the content, they don't have to pay royalties on it.
Yeah.
So,
any thoughts on Jonathan Gresham? Dope.
I like that match he had with Joe Keys. That was phenomenal. But I'm a fan of his. I think kind of like remind me of a Dean Malenko a little bit.
Yeah. Like a real shooter.
Yeah.
Speaking of Joe Keys, he was on AEW Dark Elevation.
How about that? Excellent.
Yeah. Joe Keys getting he's I think Joe Keys is one of those guys I see him pop up on a lot of indie posters now too. He's kind of he's starting to find that groove and
making some waves.
And
kind of trending a little bit, getting a little buzz. Good for him.
Probably because he was featured right here on the MCW Cast.
Right.
He was one of our first
or
guests,
on MCW Breakthrough in a great match with Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, very good.
So how about this? I want to throw this out there, and we've talked about this in the past right here on the MCW Cast, but I remember leading into Mania, I had mentioned two names that I want to see a clash, and that being Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley.
I'm a big fan. I wanted to see that.
I think we all want to see it, and we all want to see it now while they still can deliver. So
what do you the buzz is SummerSlam maybe? Like they put Brock Lesnar back on the...
So the buzz is that they've mentioned Brock's name several times on the broadcast. And, some of the really, pundits of watching and knowing what's going to happen or predicting it say they wouldn't be saying his name unless there's some possibility, there's the potential that he's going to be back. So with WWE moving back towards crowds, can you imagine?
Well, SummerSlam's going to have fans, right?
That's right, in Vegas.
Sure.
At
Vegas.
Nice.
Yeah.
Full capacity, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Full capacity. Well, they're going up against a pretty significant
they got
boxing.
It's a big weekend now.
Yeah, so.
Is it a UFC or boxing?
I'm not sure if it's UFC. I think it's boxing.
But you know what?
It's
it is UFC, I believe.
No, it's Mayweather's Pacquiao. Pacquiao's fighting.
That's
Pacquiao
right.
in Vegas.
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
I'm a fan of that, and I think I hope it happens, and I hope it happens for Bobby Lashley. It kind of puts the exclamation point on him as champion, and I hope he wins. I feel like it's his time, and really kind of puts an exclamation point on him on Lashley. Him as a top guy.
Yeah, I love MVP with him too. It's perfect.
Good
I love MVP with him, but I always kind of resent a little bit that was Leo's role first. Like, I really think Bobby Lashley got his relevance back, not by just coming after his Impact stay, but when he was with Leo and they started the almighty Lashley. So a little bit, because Leo's our homegrown, star, I'm like, gosh, man, that, Leo could be doing that role too. But, MVP came back at the Royal Rumble, got a huge reception, and is one of the best talkers out there.
Yeah,
so,
talking his ass off.
Yeah, and Leo's doing, relatively well. He's going to be fine post WWE. But yeah, I love MVP. I love what they're doing with Kofi and
stirring up the
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that was masterfully done.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
Dan, if you just MVP kind of with his machinations backstage of trying to
Uh-huh.
split the New Day up and kind
Doing
of
a
get
good
them.
job at it too.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's
Right.
compelling.
Oh, by the way. Oh, before I leave.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, very good, very
Throwing
good.
stuff
So
out there.
yeah,
Yeah,
good stuff
are they
happening
heading
there.
towards maybe a split there with a New Day? I would say it's probably time.
It's probably time. Well, you know,
I wouldn't be surprised if Woods turning on Kofi.
that's where the swerve happens. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
because
yeah.
Woods does deliver a really good, raised eyebrow. Makes him look very villainous. As a matter of fact, you got to watch for little hidden messages like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
when
yeah,
they're doing
yeah.
the filming of it. What about AEW? You see anyone, besides our guys that are being featured on Dark, anyone in AEW that kind of captivates you? And
I like AEW. I like what they're doing with Jungle Boy, and kind of a fan, of Orange Cassidy. Although I'm an old school guy, but
A lot of old school guys do not like Orange Cassidy's whole gimmick.
I know, but
Yeah.
it's like I became a little, I'm coming down a little bit. I'm a little older, and I'm finding more entertainment with wrestling these days. And
Hey,
it's like,
brother, at the end of the day, the reception he gets from the crowd
Yeah.
by doing something like putting his hands in his pocket.
Right.
When they were at that last pay-per-view they
Yeah.
did, just a huge ovation
Yeah.
in the main event against Kenny Omega and Pac, just because Orange
Yeah.
Cassidy's doing his thing on the top ropes where you're not going to get my hands out of my pocket. And it's like the spinach. It's like, Popeye spinach. When he gets that, he's unstoppable.
Yeah.
So, regardless of if it's ruining the business or whatever, nothing's stopping that crowd from reacting the way that they are. So we
Right.
must be
Well,
doing something right.
and I'm also looking forward to seeing Arn Anderson's son work. Anybody
That's
seen him?
crazy. I've seen that picture with him. floating
Yeah, I'm
around.
like,
isn't it funny? I see the meme going around. Like, could his son look any more like him? It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the guys' sons are getting hired.
Has he been
Billy
training?
Gunn.
And
I
I mean, he
guess
must.
so, yeah.
He was born to it. He
Yeah.
probably was
He
trained.
got a
Right.
tough pair of shoes to fill there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So
All right, and lastly, since we're just kind of wrapping it up here, you stay up on anything that's going on the indies, the true to life indies? We talked about a couple, TV things, but do you ever scour the web and see what's going on some of the smaller level? I don't know.
Let's see. I was watching some of that British stuff
Okay.
every now and
the
again.
NXT.
Not just the NXT stuff. What's that group that
Progress.
help me out? No,
What culture?
Wade Barrett was commentating for that group there.
Okay, I think that's What Culture Pro Wrestling's
Oh,
group. I
okay.
think so. WCCPW maybe.
Wild World of Sports, I think it is.
Okay, all right, right on.
Yeah, I was watching that a little bit before the pandemic, and that was pretty cool. It was some good stuff. So I haven't checked in on it lately.
Larry, you're out there on the indies. I mean, they're pretty much all opening back up, right? Everything's pretty much open.
Everything is getting back to business as usual. It's starting to sort of trickle in. More fans are being at shows. They just did.
I saw did California completely open up? Did I see something online that the governor completely?
I think they finally rolled back. They were the first ones to initiate, and they were finally they caught up to everyone else. So yeah, California's back to life, back to reality. Which still I kind of enter into that with a little bit of trepidation. With we still are learning so much, and you still hear about new waves. But it's kind of funny that our former president was like, you're gonna see overnight it's gonna be gone.
It's
And like a miracle,
yeah.
it's gonna be gone. And
It's gonna
it
go
took a little
away.
bit longer than overnight. He said the day after the election, everyone will stop talking about it, and it took a little while, but. Now we're still talking about it, but we're talking about it in a more favorable light, by July 4th, so.
I mean, I think it's time to get on with it. You know what I mean? I'm ready to get back to life a little bit,
Yeah, but then don't you feel kind of jaded because, was it all worth it,
Well, I think there was so much unknown about it. For I was at the emergency room for a respiratory infection a couple weeks ago, and it's so it was just as like boom, boom, boom. Like that was something right away. They pulled me aside. They tested, you know what I mean? They
Right.
tested me like 15 minutes later. They're like, no, you're good. You're COVID. You know what I mean? If you look, one of the reasons now is I think hospitals and any healthcare facilities are trained so much in it. They know so much more about it. There's so much more treatments. It's just kind of like you kind of, along with everything else. It's hard to say back then. You look back, like everything was unknown. So, there was, they thought, what was the estimations? Like 30 million people were going to die or something like that at first. So I guess when that, it's hard to look back. But
what are we at now? Like 600K in the United States?
In the U.S., but worldwide there's millions,
Yeah.
Wow.
Worldwide. Yeah.
So
Well, and and there's the variants that, of course, have to be, whatever's going on in the UK now, they think that's going to be the dominant strain. And for the vaccinated people, that's okay. But for the unvaccinated people, are we going to see a second wave? So I don't know. But you're right. They didn't know as much, before, and now we're learning. And, I think we're seeing that we can safely reopen and do some things, if we put some things in place. But if you go back and you open everything up and then you tell everybody, put the mask back on, it's not going to go well because people have dug their heels in and have politicized masks. So they're not going to go, even if it, aligns with what science says. Hey, new variant, put your mask on while we figure it out because that's what we did before. They're just not going to go for it. Some people aren't, but
they're going to be like, we're back to
burnt their mask.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be like, we're back at WWE Live, screaming for
Well, there's also variables there, too. You got people that had worked their whole lives, and because of this, like, were wiped out, It's hard. It's easy for someone to have an opinion, but I know several people that had worked for 30 years on a business that's gone.
Gone.
Because of it. So how can you judge them or judge their feelings on it when they had their entire livelihood of decades of work just wiped out because of it? So that's where those frustrations and all come in that – because there was overreaction on some stuff
for the paper,
and they've even said, "Hey, we could have, like, we didn't have to shut down all businesses.
Right.
We could have done this differently.
Right.
But
that's been admitted. We just didn't. But unfortunately, the victims of a lot of those overreactions weren't the big corporations that have billions of dollars behind them. They were the mom and pop shops that like got by, and had their businesses wiped out. So it was like unfortunately the bigger multi-billion-dollar businesses didn't have any problem surviving it.
Well, they were in a position, too, where they could invest quickly into new technologies and new formats and new modalities so that they could, if they were in sales or services or whatever, I never thought I'd see the day where I could, if I wanted to, I could order a margarita in a box at a bar, to go. I mean, like, you can't buy liquor on a Sunday here, but all of a sudden you can now.
John,
you know what I mean? How'd that happen?
Talked about that a lot when it just come from the restaurants for John from Jimmy Seafood, the restaurants that he was helping downtown. A lot of the restaurants were, these older restaurants that had been, he's like, a lot of these guys, that's what John said, like, a lot of these restaurants, they had their business, they had built it over 30, 40 years, but they didn't even have like a Facebook page.
Right.
They didn't know how to
social
adapt,
media, yet alone a web page,
Right.
or have an understanding of sign up to Grubhub and stuff like that.
Online ordering.
Right, like they couldn't even, they had they were set in their ways, their business had ran this way for decades, they had fed their families, and then all of a sudden it was like, John was like, a lot of these businesses couldn't even register all of this change this quickly, and it's like change now or die.
Right.
It was survival of the fittest.
And it was survival of the fittest. So it's like all those variables where frustrations and people come in. And
even if they had stayed open, then you had the people who weren't going to go out anyway. So like even if they had, like if restaurants, for example, had stayed open, but then you have orders to stay home, or you have people who are sick or who are concerned, your business was going to drop off anyway. So it's,
I guess in fairness, in fairness to government or whatever, this had never happened. So like all the things they look back and say, yeah, we didn't have to do this. It was, I guess there's a blueprint now that they could, if something like this, hopefully if it didn't happen for decades, but if it's something like it did happen, there's maybe a template that they could efficiently and effectively not shut down everybody and not turn off people's livelihood, and be able to follow a template where they look back and go, okay, we did this wrong or that wrong. And, I mean, we certainly weren't, as an MCW, like I've talked about this, like we had 3 streams of revenue, and we weren't certainly prepared to have all 3 streams of revenue
immediately
just gone,
gone off,
you know. So.
Yeah, Bill, that's what was going to lead me right to my segue there. It's one mom and pop that kicked out of the global gimmick, and that was this one right here. Thanks largely in part to our fans, the MCW faithful that have supported the MCW cast.
And there was a couple months where me and Dennis were having these tough discussions.
Yeah.
You know, we were gonna pack everything up and put it in a storage facility to not drain our bank account and just wait. That was the school, everything. We were actually putting it in motion to do it.
Wow.
Because we were just like, we don't know what to do.
Like, and others did do that. That is CZW's story. They have been dormant since the pandemic started. But again, we haven't been. We've been rocking and rolling. And with that, this is the 23rd edition of the MCW Cast. I couldn't think of 2 more legendary OG guests for us to have with us.
Thank you.
Thank
Too Dope and Sideswype. Fans, that's just about going to wrap it up for this edition. You know that you can catch us every Tuesday at 8 right here for another exciting edition of the MCW Cast. For Dan and Tara and our guests, the Ghetto Mafia, I'm Larry Legend. We'll see you next Tuesday.